We about to party up in here. Oh yeah, yeah. This how we do. You see we shining, we shining. You see the way that my time be blinding. Know it's a shame how I blow in my lane. Don't know not the same cause the time be climbing. Hey, when it's this time to chop, man. We be on the yacht popping champagne. Yeah, I live on the road. I do what I do not to live on the floor. And to live is the goal. But when you get here, then that living is bold. Cause when you get here, then you live by the code. We chasing that dream, so we live in that mode. It'll never change. I done been through several pain. Chat with me now, cause there's more to a name. Take you a seat, this is behind the fame.
Welcome to Behind the Fame, where we get to know the person behind the celebrity name. I'm your host, Lady J. Let's get to know today's guest a little better. Victoria Wieck is a multi-millionaire and world-renowned jewelry designer and fashion TV host. Formerly the host of HSN and now the host on Shop HQ, she used her trying circumstances to cultivate her gift of design and determination. As an immigrant in the United States as a child, she drew what she wanted to communicate since she couldn't speak English, and little did she know that growing up poor and her gift to create would be the fuel to her fire to win and become a female millionaire boss and have her jewelry be sold across 70,000 retailers. Victoria Wieck. So Victoria, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you are here.
Lady J, what a delight to be here sharing this time with you and your audience. I'm thrilled and just can't wait to have an amazing conversation.
Awesome. So, as you all heard and saw, I know you've seen her before anyway on HSN, because who hasn't watched HSN? Who hasn't bought from there? Because I know I have. Actually, just recently. So, and we're going to get all into, your jewelry and all of that. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about your background. So can you tell everyone a little bit about where you were born and what your upbringing was like?
Yes, I was born in South Korea, a beautiful little, country. And even within South Korea, I believe where I grew up was actually one of the idyllic, the prettiest part of it, in that we didn't actually get TV where we were. Korea had TV, but where we were, we were so far south, in a remote island, and they didn't have that many people. So we didn't have TV. I think we might have gotten one or two radio stations, which my parents never really listened to. So I grew up in a kind of an idyllic situation, and when you're a kid living on an island, you have everything you need. You have your food, you have, a few friends.
Right.
And life was pretty good until one day my dad decided that he needed to leave Korea. So his 4 daughters, at the time, Korea was very unkind to girls. And, they didn't value girls as much as boys. They preferred boys. Women wanted to have boys so they could continue on their family name and all that stuff. So my father, having 4 girls, and his youngest at the time when he was dreaming about leaving for America, which took like almost a decade, he decided that America was going to be the place where, I guess he had learned, or he had heard, that America was where all dreams come true. It was the paradised promised land. So he decided he's going to move his family to America. And he kind of told us every day at sunset, beyond that horizon there was this amazing land called America. Right. So we were so excited to come here. And you know what, Lady J, when we came, our first point of entry was Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So, we're seeing palm trees and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the paradise. I've never seen anything like this before. You were smelling right. Pineapples and all this stuff at the airport, right? Mm-hmm. Then we came to, we landed in East LA and, or got to East LA. That was our first point of entry to Los Angeles. And the very next day, my father found out that when he went to the bank to withdraw some money so he can actually rent a real apartment, he realized all the money was frozen. Then he called his sister in South Korea to see if she can, bring some money or something. And first of all, she couldn't leave either. And all the money for the whole family was frozen there too. So
Wow.
what he had was $30, and we were stuck in this apartment in East LA, and we couldn't even pay rent there either. So like the poor lady had a lot of compassion for us to stay there for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But so life began very suddenly. It changed from having everything I thought I needed to just having absolutely nothing. I had no friends. I didn't speak any English. We had no family. We didn't have a job. We didn't have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, my life changed a lot. When my father tried to rent an apartment in Los Angeles, and he wanted to get to a place that was a little bit safer, and they would tell him, oh my God, your girls look so adorable. I want to rent to you, but I'm not supposed to rent to Orientals. And it was, this was before fair housing laws came into effect. So my father would say, well, what's an Oriental? Because, in South Korea, everybody is Korean, right? You don't,
Right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, from that point, I realized when I was a grown up, every time I got a promotion and I got a little bit more money, it came with the 20 to 30 hours of extra work that I didn't have before. So at that point, I decided that I didn't want to abandon my children the way my parents had to, because they had to make a living. They each worked 2 jobs for several years.
Right.
So I quit my job and I took a risk and I started my company following my passion, because I figured, I grew up with nothing. I mean, I survived nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the worst that could happen to me, I could still survive that. So
Right.
I started my company, and with the goal of making $2,000 a month. I thought, coming from from that immigrant background, America was, by the way, even with all that, we still loved, our friends, the few people that we got to know. We loved
Right.
America, the opportunity that it gave. So, I started my company, and I thought, what, even if I never own a home, it's not the end of the world. So $2,000 a month, I thought I could pay my rent. It's like $1,200 a month. And I could, raise my kids, feed them. And if I made $3,000 a month, then I could actually send them to college or something. So that was my dream. And so now, as you know, if you read my bio, I've done well over $500 million in sales. So I have definitely overachieved my initial goal of what I had identified as my American dream, which was to spend time at home and, with my children, so they could be I could be present for them, and, work about 20, 30 hours a week and make, $24,000 a year.
For you as a child, what was it like growing up in LA after you all migrated and not having any money? Because we all know, some people experience homelessness, some kids get caught up, especially in LA. It was easy back then, to get caught up in gangs and drugs and things of that sort. So tell me, what was it like for you?
Yeah, so everything you said was totally correct. I mean, a lot of kids from my school, ended up in prison, juvenile hall, long before, they grew up, actually. And, I could have gone to, and a lot of things, when I look back at my life, like, I didn't actually plan everything to be the way it was. I mean, I simply survived every day. And I thought to I cried and cried and cried. I watched my mother cry to herself to sleep. I had never, life was pretty good for her. She never worked outside the home, back in Korea.
Right.
And I begged my dad to, let us go back home. And he tried, but, we didn't have any money to buy airplane tickets to go back home, family of 7. So we stayed here. My mom got a job at a sewing factory, and they refused to, by the way, go to like the government office to get like a help, to be on welfare, because we had green cards when we came here. My dad said, I had these kids. They're not the responsibility of anybody else but my own. We're going to live or die together. So he worked, he can. In my case, I had a lot of time by myself because I had no friends. And it's hard to make friends. It's not like they didn't want to be with you. It's just hard to make friends when you can't communicate with anybody and everything is new. I mean, like using forks, all this, it was all new, because in Asia you eat with chopsticks.
Right.
So everything was new. The food was new. It was just very different. And at that time, I said to myself, is there anything I could do for myself that I can't burden my parents to help me do anything because they're trying to survive. So I thought to myself, the first thing I have to do is to learn to speak English. So there were no English as second language classes. I mean, there were like 4 Korean kids, and that included me and my sister in our school. So, my dad got a English to English dictionary, which he used to survive his day. And he would basically circle any words with 5 letters or under. So anything like words like contradiction would be too long. So, it'd be like, 4 letter, 5 letters. And so he would circle randomly from a dictionary because he didn't speak English either. And so I would then look up the definition of this. And you know what I found out when I did this? American kids, believe it or not, this is a fact. Their whole vocabulary, how they exist is 2,500 words. And so if I'm studying 200 words a day within a year, I was already there. Everything that happened to me in those early years have directly resulted in my building the $500 million business. So, for example, my whole point is, think about the one single thing that you could do for yourself. I mean, it could be redefining your dream. It could be, getting, if you're just bored of sitting at home and you're just like, you feel claustrophobic, get outside. The first day, just get outside and smell the air. Second day, go 10 feet. Third day, go knock on your next door's neighbor, right? So I think about the one thing you could do for yourself every day, because, you can't believe what you can accomplish in 360 days in a year, that you're looking at a whole different, change of life. But basically, in the early years when I didn't speak any English and I had to go to the bathroom, or, I had to do, I had to go pick up my other child, or, I say child because my sisters are all like my kids because I have to raise them. I would draw. I mean, I would draw my what I was trying to say. I would actually draw it out because I couldn't talk. And those drawing skills later on became very critical in my career in terms of how I design my jewelry, because in the beginning I just drew just to get by, just to say, hey, I don't understand or whatever, or I'll say I differ with you, and I would actually draw things out. But as I got older, I always worked 2-3 jobs. I always worked 30 hours a week or more since I was 15 years old. And at that point, at night when I'm exhausted and I, came home after my, all my other friends were having fun. They're going to high school proms and everything. And I'm sitting there working, taking care of my siblings and trying to ponder, like, why did God put me here? Right. At that point, when I get really tired or something like that, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I wasn't going to tell my younger sister, okay, life sucks here, like, stop trying. So I would then draw my feelings out. I would paint things that have to do with my feelings, things that I want to share with people. I would actually draw them, paint them. And what happened is the jewelry that I design now, there are over 10 to 15 million pieces of my jewelry has been sold just here in America. They will all tell you that my jewelry exemplifies a personality. It exemplifies a feeling. So instead of like, oh, this is a 2-carat diamond from Tiffany's, my pieces would have, butterflies. And even when I have butterflies on, like a hint of butterflies on my jewelry, like on a necklace, a butterfly that's just in flight joyfully is different than a butterfly that just landed. That's different than a butterfly that's just born. So like I actually differentiate all these things. And so what happens is it was the only jewelry for about 20 years that had feelings associated with the piece of jewelry that actually, it had seasons. You can actually tell what season I created the piece. So all those hardships that I faced, I embraced it, and I, kind of made the best out of it. And in the end, I had skills that kids going through jewelry design school, they'll never get the affinity for feeling and, why people buy. And the other thing too is, you look at someone like Maya Angelou, like, even her, she's had a pretty rough life, okay? Pretty rough life. And she's made some major mistakes in her life. But the one thing that she says, and after she's went through all that, people will forget what you said or what you do, but they won't never forget how you made them feel.
Being a celebrity is one thing, but being a relatable celebrity is another thing. So you'd be surprised at how many celebrities that I've had the opportunity to talk to interview, whether it was on the radio, or like we're sitting here, or in person, on a red carpet, or whatever the case may be. Some of them, it's a very few that are, down to earth and relatable, in regards to not just their fans and audience, but even when they're just talking, talking about themselves and about their stories or about their career, versus being the one that goes on there and starts, listing a whole bunch of accolades and what they've done, and things like that. There's a difference between those people, and those people understand, people like you, and other celebrities like you. They understand that not only did their, I'll say, status, quote unquote, as society says, their celebrity status come about as a result of those adoring fans, but also they don't forget where they came from. They don't forget the work that they had to put in, to get there. And then when you get there, you still have work to do in order to maintain that.
Yes.
It's not like, hey, I'm here. I've met my goal. I've arrived, and now I can relax and sit back, kick back, and then just, have fun. But it's still work to do. A lot of people don't understand that even though you were put into a situation, that was difficult when you all migrated here, and it was difficult for you to communicate, you fell on hard times with, finding a decent place to live and things of that sort. You used your drawing as a way to communicate, as a way to survive. And then little did you know, and this is where, this is what makes the story so powerful, because I'm a firm believer in God, and I know a lot of people believe in a higher power, whatever they may believe in, but I believe in God, and he always has a way of making sure that his word never returns void when it says that all things work together for the good of those. And one of those things, even though you were, in the environment that you were in, even though you were faced with the challenges that you were faced, with as a child, that drawing became an integral part in your purpose, in your gift.
Right.
So, and you didn't know that at the time, but as you got older, you did. So tell me, at what point in life did you realize that your drawing was going to be the catapult in, or I should say, would be the most important thing in catapulting you into your career?
It wasn't like an overnight revelation at all. Like I said to you earlier, I'm one of those people, I hate complainers, and I don't like to complain. I don't care what happens to me. It's not your problem. It's not it's nobody's problem but my own. And everyone has their own problems, and I don't want to burden you with my problem, right? And so I've always tried to survive. But here's the thing. I think after I hit like $18-20 million in sales, I looked back and I thought to myself, I could easily sit there and say, oh my God, I'm a great designer, or I'm a great salesperson, or I'm a great TV, somebody who can talk really well on TV. By the way, I was petrified of being on TV. So I could do that, but I didn't think I was that good. I didn't think I was that creative. I didn't think I was that great of a, communicator, really. I'm lousy in sales because I will always just tell you the truth. So if something's not going to fit, I remember the first time I was ever on HSN, a caller had said, oh my God, Victoria, this is really great. Would you wear this and that? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't wear those two together personally. And the show host is like literally kicking me under my feet. Like, yes, they go together because, she wanted to buy them. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't wear them. She can buy them, but I wouldn't wear them. She asked me a question, I'd answer the question. So I was horrible at all those things. But let me tell you what happened, how those drawings became even more of a critical issue than you think, because I didn't share this part. So think about it this way. If you've ever, by the way, this is now called the Great Resignation year, where a lot of people are resigning their positions because they're shifting their priorities. So if you ever wanted to start your own business, if you believe in yourself enough, and you believe, like I believed, that God didn't put me on this earth and brought me all the way to America, so I could starve and rot there. Okay, so there is a purpose. As long as I'm breathing and I can still complain about something, then I can still find the purpose rather than complaining. Right. So what happened was, when I, I got my degree at UCLA, got my master's, and then I kept getting pretty decent jobs, good pay. And then I was working these crazy hours, and I thought to myself, my parents had to leave us home because they couldn't feed us. But I could feed them, but I'm still wanting to climb up the corporate ladder and all that stuff. And I somehow tricked myself to thinking that the way I can feed my children, the way I could provide for them, and the way I could become a good mother is by making more money. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep getting nannies for my kids. So I decided to myself, this is kind of a wrong thinking, because my kids aren't going to be that age forever.
Right.
So when I decided I'm going to work 20 hours a week and I'm going to want to make two grand a month, because everybody else was making 40, 50, 60 at that time with an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, I was making quite a bit more money than that. So what happened was, so how do you then, I didn't want to, my parents didn't have any money. Even when I was starting my business, they had no money.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you then start a jewelry company with no money? I said, if you make a jewelry sample and you have an original design and you want to make an original sample, it's usually about $500 to $300 if you're baking a lot of it, $300 to $1,000 per sample, because you're dealing with gold and silver samples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you got 10 samples, that's 30 grand, three grand to 10,000. If you had 100 samples, you can see how the numbers add up.
Right.
And I have no customers. I have no idea who's going to buy anything, and I have no idea who's going to manufacture it. So why would I do that? So I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. I can't bankrupt my family, and I don't want to borrow on credit cards so that I can bankrupt my future. So I drew out beautiful designs in 3D, painted them in watercolors. They look like, and I did them in life size, so you could actually, almost put a finger through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Neiman Marcus on Rodeo Drive, Wilshire and Rodeo. That's where all the Hollywood celebrities used to shop back then. Mm-hmm. And I went to over there with a little sketchbook, and I asked the assistant department manager, because the department managers are usually busier. But I got a hold of the assistant department manager, and they have tons of them. They have like 5 or 6 different assistant department managers there. But this one, I asked her if, I said, look, I have no experience in this at all. I have no money. And, but I've always dreamt about becoming a jewelry designer someday. And I know you see a lot of people, you see the best of the best. And I do some things out here, and I'm actually like really embarrassed to even show these to you, but could you just look at it and see if there's anything here that you could possibly that would get me in the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, sure. So she started, looking at the pieces, and then she's like, oh my God, I could sell all of these pieces. I could sell them like right now. And I said, you don't have samples or anything? She goes, I don't need it. She goes, you know what? A lot of the Hollywood celebrities here, like, they don't want things in the case. They don't want something that everybody has. They want something that, like, we sell a lot of stuff on the lookbooks all the time. So she's like, if you leave it here, we can sell it. I said, well, you don't have any pricing. She goes, it doesn't matter. Okay, they'll just buy whatever. And I was like, okay. I couldn't even believe my ears or eyes or anything. And, I was dressed like literally almost like this, straight hair. Mm-hmm. I looked like I was like a little teenager, and I was a lot younger than I am now. And so I thought, okay, well, that one went really well. And so then I went across the street to Saks Fifth Avenue. They're like literally right across the street from one another. I got very similar reaction. So then I came back home, and I thought, most people that I know where I grew up, or, even when I went to school, they budget their money. It's a very considered purchase. Jewelry is a very considered purchase. So this world that I just went to is not reality. So how do I then use that and get more business? So, then I went to all the stores, like all the department. We had about, in those days, we had about 60 department stores all around LA County. Mm-hmm. So I went to, many of them, and then I came up with about 7 or 8 that I felt had a very broad appeal. Okay. So just being able to draw things out in 3D, that actually got me almost a capital startup money that I didn't have to go get anywhere else. During COVID, so what happened was HSN, I decided I wanted to leave, and I wanted to, I can always come back to jewelry. I knew this, by that point.
Right.
And I knew that I was never going to have a problem with tracking another network. So I wanted to leave and do the things that I've always wanted to do. So I wrote the 2 books. during COVID, when I started giving lectures and, trying to kind of lift other women up, and every time I would give a speech, whether it's 20 people or 2,000 people, they're all like, do you have a book? Do you have a course? Do you have anything? And I'm like, no, but you can keep coming to my, free webinars. So, when I started writing blogs and things, and I realized I had so much more to give. I knew a lot more about how the business world works. Because remember, I had done business all over the world. And in all the different distribution channels, department stores, cruise ships, airlines. I mean, I've done it all. Airport gift shops, TV networks in multiple countries.
Right.
And I thought, what I did wasn't brain surgery, like I told you before. You just have to have unshakable commitment and belief that you are not going to starve. And if you can still right now bitch about anything, I don't have money, I don't have time, my husband's bad, my kids are bad, whatever, you still have a purpose. And that purpose may be masked or forgotten because you're too busy doing complaining. Right. So a lot of people say that my story is inspiring and I'm a very motivative, speaker. But I tell people, I end every speech by saying, I don't want to be an inspiration. I don't want to be a motivator. I want to be the person that causes you to take that very first action for yourself.
Right.
Because only actions are going to end in some result. Thinking doesn't end up in a result.
Right. Exactly. Every battle first, because when you are trying to build a business or whatever, you're going to face battles, and you have to win the battle in your mind first, because if you lose the battle in your mind, then your actions are going to follow that. If you win the battle in your mind, your actions will follow that. If you make up in your mind, I have this test tomorrow and I'm going to fail, you're not going to study. There's no point in studying. If you say, make up in your mind, I'm going to pass this test, I'm going to get an A, then you're going to buckle down and you're going to study it. That's with anything in life. And so I think that mindset is extremely important. It is very important. And just to, I know just to look at you, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of your fans or followers, who and clients, that shop with you, like none of them would have ever even realized, like, oh wow, like, I didn't know that she, that she did all of that, or, that this is how she got started. And like I said, you never know what somebody's story is and what steps they had to take to get to where they are at. So tell me, what is it that you hope that people take away from you sharing your story? What message do you think is important for them to get from this?
So the message I want to give to everybody is this. You saw my story. I started out with nothing, and I would say, well, maybe that's a lie. I started out with $30, which is pretty close to nothing. But the day you're born out of your mother's womb, you were given everything you need to live a happy life. And so, the fact that if you have any obstacles, think about the one thing you can do to improve. Because like I said, if you, step out of your door one day because you were too depressed and couldn't get out, and then the next day you walk down the street, the next day you go 2 blocks, the next day you actually have a conversation with somebody. It's just like in 30 days you could do a lot. I mean, in a year, it's a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So, just understand that whatever you think is, hindering you from living the life you were designed to live, which is to maximize all your potential and to lift everybody else. You have that in you. You just have to kind of get yourself out of that mindset that I can't. And I don't blame you, by the way, because our society tells you all the things you can't do. Right. Our society tells you, unless you hire an expert, unless you get a mindset coach or whatever, that you can't think for yourself. Okay, yes. It's not true. Yes. There's all these lies, all these things that almost come to you masked as solutions, and they're not. They're just causing you more problems. One thing that you said earlier too, and which coincides with what we're talking about right now, when you were saying, I never thought about money. Wasn't my goal. And I tell people all the time that when you walk in your purpose, when you chase purpose, money and fame and all that other kind of stuff, it'll chase you. It will find you. Right. And I tell people all the time too, that's another way that you can remain humble and maintain where you are, because
yeah, you can step on other people to get ahead, to get to where you are, but that won't keep you there.
No.
You'll fall just as quick as you got there. And, I tell people all the time too, relationships are very important. You got out, you met people, you talked to people, you asked for their feedback and all of that stuff. And relationships favor can take you places that money can't. It can get you into places and open doors, that you never even would have ever dreamed of or imagined. And so I think that is important too, because I know a lot of society is driven by the love of money, money. But
this society
the reality is that when we all found out, during the pandemic, is that money, you need
doesn't
money
buy you
to
happiness.
Eat. You need money to, you need money to eat, you need money to live, pay your bills. But when it comes to being happy, when it comes to, finding out what your purpose is, when it comes to, healing, all that stuff, money has no place there. It can't do any of those things for you. So I think that a lot of people from your story, they can see, you had the drive, a relentless drive, and then you focused your I'll say the negativity that came out of your situation, you used that as fuel. You know what I'm saying? You didn't complain, and you continued, you stayed with it until, you got the results that you wanted. And that is, extremely commendable. It's very difficult to do for some people, to be that focused, to be that determined. I mean, man, $500 million worth of sales. Do you know how difficult that has to, and globally, I'm not talking about just the United States, globally, and you were able to, and this is one thing that I do like, because once you mastered one target group, you then decided to add to that and make it more affordable too for the people who watch you, the people who love you, and not just, those celebrities. Because I know it's difficult sometimes, because a lot of celebrities will only focus on and mingle with or cater to other people that have a lot of money. Well, I mean, you're not really impacting anybody or changing the world with that, so I think that is extremely commendable as well.
And I now spend a lot of time coaching that for free. Like I do a lot of free webinars. I don't do them often enough. I can't do them all the time every day, but people can sign up to my, to any of those, and they actually get like real advice that they would normally pay. Like the thing that bothers me about all these online courses and coaching and all that, a lot of people that are coaching have never run a business. They've learned to be a coach for all their lives.
Listen, I'm glad that you said that, because I'm telling you, during the pandemic, everybody became an expert and everybody became a guru. And you should see the prices on some of these on some of these programs. I'm like, I gotta pay you $999 for you to talk to me for an hour for some material. Are you serious? Like, it's completely mind-blowing.
And who are you? That's the other thing. I mean, this happened to me the other day. So I was actually a keynote speaker at a pretty major event. So I go there, and there's like a program guide and all that stuff. And this is like 900 women or something. They're all small business owners. And there was a woman there. She said she teaches how to pitch on TV. Well, I said, well, you haven't been on TV, so how would you know how to pitch on TV? She goes, oh, no, I did this. And I'm like, no. You need to, first of all, pitching on TV is one thing. But then second, once you get on TV, as you said before, staying on TV.
How can people shop with you and connect with you?
Yeah, so if you come to, the best way to connect with me is to come to victoriawieck.com. So that's my whole world, Victoria Wieck, Wieck.com. You can sign up for both of my books. You're gonna really like the science fiction book, because it actually is a thriller. And I've had a lot of publishers tell me that they want to. In fact, I'm writing 2 other books, the sequels to those. And then you have the how-to book that's going to be released next year. And that one also has been enriched about 8 different times based on the different publishers that wanted to publish it. And, I'm adding instead of attending these masterminds, it's the cheapest form of getting all the information. I don't hold back anything on it. And then when it comes to shopping for my jewelry, it's the one thing I don't do on my site is that there are over 70,000 retailers that actually carry my jewelry around the world. And the last thing I want to do is tell you to come and buy my stuff on my site. Right. So my site is
actually with 70,000 retailers. You know, with 70,000 retailers, I think they got that covered.
See, even if they sell one a week, if all 70,000 sold one piece of jewelry a week, you can see the numbers. You know, that's 240,000 pieces, you know, a month. Man, so the last thing I do is ask you, you know, like this whole world is. So like anytime you quote a website, it's like buy. I don't want to do that. I want you to think. I want you to, you know, be a good person. And so I just want to connect people to each other, and I want to be a. Thank you so much for, you know, being my guest on today. Thank you for sharing your story, for being transparent, and, you know, being able to provide those gems that you did throughout the show. Like I said, you have definitely, truly inspired me. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Lady J. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for joining me and my amazing guest today. Remember, there's more to a celebrity's name than fame. Until next time.